Yeah, somebody just sent me in this clip from CBS News where Newt Gingrich is out there saying, being gay is a choice. We got to force them to choose otherwise, is the implication there. And what he's really saying is, if I don't get the voters' minds off the economy and the war, Ron Paul going to kick my butt. That's what he's saying. So, it's rather obvious how scared they are, how desperate they are to try and find something to get the voters to look at. Because if the voters are looking at the real job performance of the government, they're going to get Fs. Forget about Moody's downgrading the government's rating. The voters are getting ready to do a real grand downgrade as it is. All right. We're going to take a phone call right now. John in California. Aloha, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, aloha, Mike. Thanks for taking the call. I appreciate it. You were commenting the other day basically saying how we're all Palestinians now officially with Obama signing into law the defense spending bill with the provision that, basically allows us to be indefinitely detained at the government's sole discretion. And he's basically just sort of codifying and, implementing into law this tyranny that's been, taking place ever since 9/11, really. I mean, the government's been completely lawless and tyrannical ever since then. I mean, Obama was out there saying he could assassinate American citizens and, basically launch wars against whoever he wants. So, this is really nothing new. They're just basically codifying it into law. And, we've seen how the police have treated, the Occupy Wall Street movement, American citizens out there basically exercising their God-given First Amendment right. So, it's really just goes to show that this was all basically designed by Israel and by these Zionist Jews that pulled off 9/11. And then just a couple other things I'd like to bring to everybody's attention. Max Blumenthal wrote an article called The Israelification of the United States, and he goes through and kind of highlights how the ADL has been training all the police forces around the country and, the different FBI teams. It just totally brings home the point that, our government is controlled by criminals that are dedicated solely to Israel, basically. And they're
turning this nation into Israel. I mean, we've been talking about all these police forces and police chiefs who are taken off to Israel for anti-terror training, and they come on back, and their attitude basically is anybody not in a uniform is a potential terrorist, and they're turning the United States of America into a larger version of Israel, and you and I are going to be on the wrong side of those walls. And we're not kidding. This is what global domination is all about. They grab all the money by hook and by crook, mostly by crook. They buy off the politicians, and they say, you will live your lives the way we think you're supposed to do it, according to that invisible man in the clouds who tells us what a wonderful job we're doing running the nation of Israel.
Yeah, exactly right. There's actually just a press release put out by the ADL the other day talking about how they trained even more FBI agents, even more, police chiefs across the country. They have this terrorism advisory center, I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
Where they basically ship all these, police chiefs and have them trained, by the ADL, who is, nothing more than pretty much a Mossad front, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just really shows, what this, where this government stands. They're clearly, whores for Israel and the Jewish lobby, and it's so blatantly obvious. It just amazes me, and I'm really wondering when we're going to be able to talk about this. For one, I mean, I was down at the Occupy Wall Street movement, and nobody wanted to talk about these facts. So, I mean, it's getting so ridiculous these days. I don't know what it's going to take.
Well, I have to be very honest. I am waiting to see what the reaction of the American people are going to be to the implications of the National Defense Authorization Act. I'm waiting to see if anybody is going to try and mount a Supreme Court challenge regarding the provisions of military detentions for U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. I know the administration and the propaganda is, you have nothing to worry about. This is only for the terrorists. But that's how Hitler got started. The enabling acts. We will never use this against law-abiding citizens. Stalin did the same thing. And by the way, if you go back to the Gulag Archipelago, I appended one of Solzhenitsyn's great quotes to that, basically in summary Why didn't we fight back when we had the chance? Because when it was too late to fight back is when we saw just how evil it was all becoming. The United States is not immune to tyranny and dictatorship and fascism and slavery. And just because we're Americans, that's a very naive, dangerously naive, not to mention a racist point of view. Those things can happen here. They are happening here. And only the American people standing up to say, we're not going to go along with this anymore because we understand history and we've studied it. But you are right. There is a large population here in the United States of America, whether they're caught up in this whole end times religious hysteria, where this is all fitting into their plan to blow up the world and Jesus is going to come save them, or it's just Americans going along that same good German mentality, where, when Hitler was doing what he was doing and the German people said, I won't notice, I won't see it, I'll just do my job, I'll do as I'm told, and nothing bad will happen to me. And of course, bad things happen to everybody in Germany. Didn't matter whether they were good or bad. Yeah. And it's going to be the same thing here in the United States of America. The United States cannot win a third world war. Even with their nuclear weapons, all they can do is blow everything up. They can't win it. And so the American people have got nothing to lose by standing up and saying, we're not going to go down this path with you, to our own ruin, to the death of our children and grandchildren, to the poisoning of our planet with biological and nuclear weapons run amok. You've got nothing to lose by standing up and saying no. Reclaiming your freedom to say no. There is no freedom without the freedom to say no. That's what they're trying to take away from you right now, is the freedom to say no. Whether it's no to repaying all these bad business debts or no to your children and grandchildren being marched off to wars of conquests on Israel's enemies. Got nothing left to lose by standing up and saying no. It's time to stand up and say no. We'll be right back.